Yeah, so today we will talk about my PhD research. During my PhD I did research about designing for less resource-intensive ways of living. And in this video I will mainly talk about how I developed the concept of splashing. So splashing is an alternative for showering, a less resource-intensive alternative for showering. Showering is by far the most common way of washing yourself in the Netherlands, and on average people use about 50 liters of water for showering per day. And in addition to that, water use for showering is increasing, in part because people are showering longer and more often, but also importantly because power showers and rain showers are becoming more common and popular. So splashing is a fairly radically different way of washing, and it is based on a relatively small amount of contained water from which you then scoop or sponge water over yourself. It also contains a hand shower with a push button, so if you want to rinse with a shower you can. It is designed as an appliance that can be installed in a normal shower cubicle that is also heated with an extended hot water supply. The splash concept was developed as an experimental design project to develop a new way of designing. And this way of designing is based on taking practices as a unit of change rather than focusing on individual behavior or focusing on changing technology without people having to change their behavior. The benefits of practices-oriented design are that instead of looking at behavior or technologies alone, practices are the place where technologies and behavior come together and they work there together in interplay. So working with this interplay reveals opportunities for larger scales of change and the kinds of scales of change that are actually needed to achieve these reduction targets that we have as a society. So the approach consists of two parts. In the analytic part, the practice is analyzed first, so to understand what showering is all about. Also importantly, because practices have a career over time, analyzing practices involves historic analysis, and because practices are very diverse over cultures, it also implies looking at different cultures and how bathing is done there. And also if you look at other cultures, for example in India and Japan, the stand-up shower is really not common at all, and people wash themselves in quite different ways, and also in ways that are much less resource intensive than the stand-up shower. So from this first analytic phase we came up with an opportunity to develop a way of washing for the Dutch context that is based on a small amount of contained water. And this idea of washing from a bucket is of course the beginning of a design process. It's not a credible alternative to showering to just tell people, okay, here's a bucket, you're going to save water, just wash yourself with this. And this meant that we did not only have to design a new appliance for splashing, but also had to figure out, okay, what would be actions involved in splashing, what would be emotions and meanings of splashing, associations that are made with it. And we did that by asking people to conduct performances. So we asked people to come to our lab, and this was, because it was still in a very experimental phase, to come to our lab and to perform splashing for us as if it was their preferred and normal way of washing themselves. So they really had to be creative in thinking about how that might work. So actually these people that came to our lab were the designers of the new practice, and they did so through bodily performances. And we try to ask a wide diversity of people to come, because practices are socially shared, but also each performance of a practice is slightly different. So different people have different preferences for taking a shower, for example, and also the same person can take a different shower in different moments. So maybe after sports you take quite a different shower than when you get up in the morning or when you take a shower before going to bed. So we really wanted to get an idea of what splashing might be like, but at the same time to know the diversity of ways of splashing that could exist. So we asked people, and we had all kinds of props ready in the lab. So for example, a kind of bowl like this would represent the contained amount of water that they could use to do splashing. And so by giving them this, and by giving them the assignment to perform splashing as a preferred way of washing, they had to just improvise. And well, you have this bowl, okay, I'm going to wash myself. What am I going to do? And they had cups and sponges, so they used the things that they had available around them, and sometimes they imagined things. And they would scoop water and pour it over themselves, or use the sponge. And the effect of this is that they really have to think about the detail of how this might work. So when you have a cup, and you have to put it down again somewhere. So that gave all kinds of clues for the design of splashing. So splashing was really a concept, so it's not an end product that is available. So if it would become available in the market, there would be a whole new design cycle that needs to be done. So the concept of the splash and the splash appliance is now was designed, and it was also field tested. So it was tested with 5 different households. And it's interesting to see that, of course, if placed into real life and if used with real water, again, new experience and new problems also with the concept come up, and redesigns were made. So this testing in the field was also essential for developing the splash as or splashing as a new practice, as an alternative to showering. So that is important. But of course also the designers of bathrooms and developers of bathroom appliances. And because splashing is a fairly radical concept, it was for the actual bathroom market a bit of a step too far. But if worked with more, I think it could have been interesting for them as well. So with this video, I have introduced you to the splash concept, but the splash concept was developed as an example of the practices-oriented design approach, which could be applied to many other practices as well. So to which practice would you apply practices-oriented design?